Thank you very much, Mrs. Moon. And can I too congratulate the honourable gentleman, and first of all say it's a pleasure to serve under your chairpersonship for the first time, and congratulate the honourable gentleman, the member from Middlesbrough South and East Cleveland, both on securing debate and on the promotion of Middlesbrough Football Club. I'm just only sorry it's not Cardiff City this year. One of the proudest moments I ever had was being awarded the Man of Steel by his community union when I campaigned, when I was first a member of this House on the Allied Steel and Wire pension scheme. But he really is a man of steel. I feel absolutely what he doesn't know about the steel industry just simply isn't worth knowing. And can I also congratulate my other honourable friends and other honourable members, the member for Penistone and Stockbridge, who mentioned Bessemer Road. And as an example of the links between different steel communities, of course, there's a Bessemer Road in my honourable friend, the member for Cardiff South and Penarth constituency, bordering on mine as well, which just emphasises those links and that community and solidarity that there is between different steel communities. Similarly, my honourable friend, the member for Aberavon, my honourable friend, the member for Redcar, who has defended her constituents with incredible passion and energy, and I just want to express our solidarity with her and her constituents over what's happened in Redcar. Also, we had contributions from the honourable member for West Bromwich West, who reminded us of the wider economic impact of steelmaking, particularly in his case in the Midlands. We had a contribution from the honourable lady from Rutherglen and Hamilton West, and whilst welcoming her expressions of solidarity, I must say I thought what she said about the Aberdeen bypass after an intervention from my honourable friend was staggeringly complacent, really, and it was a sort of breathtaking answer, really, that didn't practically express that solidarity that we were expecting for Welsh steel workers and for English steel workers and for steel workers in other parts of the United Kingdom. And I think, really, that there needs to be some more reflection on that and the importance of that solidarity being expressed right across the United Kingdom. I also congratulate my honourable friend, the chairman of the Select Committee, who's doing incredible work on this subject in that role. My honourable friend, the member for Neath, who again spoke with passion about the importance of the steel industry in her community. As I mentioned, my honourable friend for Cardiff South and Penarth, who told us that incredible news that the Conservative Party, Plaid Cymru and UKIP have just formed an alliance in the Welsh Assembly to block the appointment of the Labour First Minister. They have no mandate to do it, and to do that at a time when we're in crisis over the steel industry. That kind of game-playing politics will not be forgotten in our steel communities in the future. I'd also like to congratulate the honourable gentleman, the member for Corby, who represents a very important steel-making community as well in this House, and the honourable gentleman for Adrian Shotts, who spoke for the SNP at the end. And now, I'm not going to speak for too long because I want the Minister to have a chance to respond, and I also want my honourable friend to have a brief opportunity to respond to her right at the end. But we are in a situation now economically where we can see the impact of what's happening in the steel industry on our economy. Manufacturing crawled ahead 0.1% in March. That's barely reversing the 0.9% decline we saw in our manufacturing in February. And output is 1.9% below what it was a year earlier in our manufacturing sector. That's the worst for the last 3 years. So the recovery is not happening in manufacturing. The march of the makers is not occurring in manufacturers. And we know that the plight of UK steel, drowning under that flood of Chinese steel, has really partially contributed to this, as well as obviously the uncertainty over the Brexit referendum and so on, and the impact that's having on our industries. And things like the blow of the closure of the Redcar steel plant, the unnecessary closure of the Redcar steel plant, we're seeing the impact of that. Basic iron and steel manufacturing is down 37.3% on a year from the figures in March. That's the sort of impact that this is having. And if I could quote Lee Hopley, the chief economist of the EEF, I think the minister criticised me for quoting them in a previous debate, but he said there isn't too much in the data to lift economic spirits, as a small increase in manufacturing output in March doesn't change the picture of an overall weak start to the year. So that's the economic background to what we're debating. We can't afford to let the steel industry die in this country because the impact it'll have will go far beyond those steel-making communities we heard so much about today. Now, I just want to reiterate the key points that I think the Minister does need to address in the debate following this annus horribilis we've had in the steel industry under this government's leadership. Not all its fault, but it is its responsibility to respond, and to respond quickly and effectively. First of all, as my honourable friend said, the insufficient action on trade defence mechanisms is the first charge against the government. It's slow response and more importantly also, the lesser duty rule, which my honourable friend mentioned. Why is the government still resisting getting rid of or reform to the lesser duty rule, in fact leading the opposition to it in Europe? Why is the government not moving ahead with that reform of business rates, which has been mentioned by so many people during the course of the debate? Failure to provide that bridge to the future in Redcar, we know what the implications are of that. And we also know that the steel industry isn't a dying industry. There are 7 buyers, as my honourable friend said, coming forward to show interest in purchasing the remaining Tata assets. But my honourable friend also said there's a possibility Tata might still be interested in this. What's the Minister's response to that? Is that a serious possibility? Can she tell us anything about that? And can she tell us, if the government is now going to swallow its pride a bit and admit it needs to have an industrial strategy and to call it an industrial strategy and to set it out clearly for us. Can she also answer the points my honourable friend said about the catapult and the importance to the UK steel sector and research and development for the future, if we're going to have a future for our steel industry? I'm not going to give way, I'm afraid, although I note my honourable friend's presence, but because of time, I think it would be unfair not to leave enough time for the Minister and my honourable friend to respond to the debate. But I do note the presence of yet another Sheffield MP here in the debate. But as I said, the Secretary of State should swallow his pride over that. On the issue of the time of the sale, what assurances can the government give us that there will be sufficient time? Because none of us are convinced that the current timetable is necessarily achievable. And what more is she going to do on procurement, on making sure the customer base is preserved, on making sure the highly skilled workforce is not lost, and taking actions, as I said earlier on tariffs? And finally, is she going to recognise the danger of market economy status being granted to China, to our industries? And on that point, and to allow the Minister sufficient time to respond, and my honourable friend to do so, I'll conclude my remarks.